Hi, today I'm going to talk about the game I choose for my final project, which is Do Not Take It Personally, Baby. It's just enter a story. And so let's get into it. Um, First of all, I want to talk about why I chose this game because, first of all, I'm a novel visual lover, and then I'm also a drama and plot lover. And I like to focusing on information privacy and interpersonal relationship in the digital era because I'm personally very interested in this topic. And then I'm also very interested in gender use identity because um, I have I, I have another minor which is educational and educational services, and also I think there's a huge potential for the video games to be a powerful tool for future privacy, sex, and gender identity education. So, what's the game story and the style? First of all, it is a visual novel and it's an interactive fiction game in which the story is presented through images and characters' dialogues. So, it is also kind of an educational and instructive game that are designed and specifically to teach some important lessons to the target audience. And the background in this game is set in a private high school literature class in 20 and 27 with a teacher and his seven students as the main character. And the player will follow the viewpoint of the teacher John Rock. John Rock, who is the literature teacher, can see at any time the text messages and postings on their students' board on the on the school social network called Amy Connect. It's kind of like a school type Facebook without students' awareness of that. And what target lesson does the game want to teach? First of all, the game is aimed to address important lessons on erosion of online privacy, information privacy, social and interpersonal relationship, and youth sexuality in the digital era. Obviously, the focus of this game is related to the privacy issue and also social aspect of school life. And then it hopes team players can have deeper understanding of social and interpersonal relationship and the use of online social media tools or have better appreciation and handling of information privacy online. So the first theory I chose is co-design, which means the game should be interactive, that players are also active producers, but not merely passive recipients. My interpretation for this theory is that when players are playing the video game, they can feel the impact of their every decision on shaping their own experiences and the trajectory of the game in the game world, which means like they can feel what they are deciding can impact their own gaming experiences. And this comes from Jean Lee's Learning by Design and Good Video Games as Learning Machines. By the way, all the theories in this presentation came from Jane G's Learning by Design paper. So I will not mention that again, like for the time saving purpose. Well, let's go back to the main point here. My personal gaming experience in this game is that the game did not only give feedback on every decision I made, but also made me feel like I was actively kind of participating and altering the trajectory of the storyline because the storyline is based on how I chose and how I respond to each circumstances. So for the application in the game, I remember there's a situation when John, which is me in the game world, was to make the decision whether to accept his student romantic love. Like there are three choices, and at that time, I feel like whatever choice I made, I was clearly able to change the plot happening next. And this sense of being able to change the plot in the next like few scenarios, and makes me like more engaged and responsible for my decision making. So I want to extend that analysis to learning in any setting, for example, in the classroom. To maximizing learning efficiency, learners must be able to feel their active presence in the process of learning or the teaching, and receive their teacher's like responses. For example, the teacher answering the student's question very quickly, friendly, and in an accurate way. So let's move on to the second theory, which is identity exploration and identity. The definition of identity in G's paper is that heavy commitment and investment through taking on and deeply attaching to different identities leads to in-depth and better learning, which means that in my understanding, I consider it as because identity offers in the game should be fascinating and intriguing enough to encourage the players to heavily invest their time in either taking on those identities or building customized character identities. Which means that kind of the player has to be fascinated about the identity they are taking on, so that they can better commit and invest their time in the game, so that they can benefit more from the game because they are actively learning from the game. So my personal experience is that in this game, like our characters have different identities. Some are publicly shown while others are very private. And along the trajectory of the story, it is very interesting to discover that those identities entangle together. Like they're not very separated in a way that can be compartmentalized. And to give you a very specific example is that John Rock is a very complicated but interesting character because he has multiple layers of identities. A literature teacher, a recent divorced man, an eavesdropper, a teacher whose student has developed a romantic love towards him, and his very identities have very different morals and personalities. So it is very interesting to continue playing the game and also being able to add more on the existing identities. To extend the analysis in real world, I think identity is similar to finding a goal, whether a career goal, academic goal, or personal goal, because people will invest heavily on the causes they are determined to commit. So it could be entering a top university or being promoted at work. So let's move on to the final theory, which is information on demand and in time. So the definition is that information has to be given when it can be put into use and when it is needed. My interpretation is that abundance of information at one time will not make the learners being able to absorb that at one time. So simply because the limitation of the human natures. So to maximize the use of the information, it has to be given with correct timing. And the personal experience is that information about the storyline given gradually, not at once, and the reminder throughout the game are there to remind readers to check on the unread message and post and characters' relationships. Many times the information popped up in just the right time when I was getting confused by the complex relationships. So the specific example is that every time when I forget to check on the unread post, I will be forbidden from continuing, and the game will remind me to go back to check the updated information. So these posts and messages are incorporated in the game to allow the players to be more aware of the trajectory of the story. So for the its use in the educational setting, I think educators can provide relevant, useful information when it is needed. For example, a specific math equation can be provided instead of a bunch of relevant equations when teaching to solve certain type of problems. So thank you for listening.